Hello, this is Jeremiah Sturkle. I'm about ready to preview The Assassin's Fair. This was a very small budget picture that was done. In fact, because we had no budget, in fact, we had literally $1 or $2 to do this, I aptly named it No Budget Productions. The Assassin's Fair is just something I came up with. I think it's a fairly good title, but it's really just in response to I just absolutely love Alfred Hitchcock and his movies. So I decided to make a movie that was inspired by a Hitchcock movie. I think it's just a short and there's no money in it. And of course, my best friend was on the picture, and his name is Farhad Mahmoud. I just really loved shooting with him. I think we both really enjoyed this whole process. And the music that I used at the beginning was actually what Hitchcock used for his television show. I thought it was just kind of funny to use, and we shot this in a parking lot, and I think we really did have a good time doing this. I used a lot of classic music throughout because Hitchcock used a lot of classic music in his productions, and I helped keep that Hitchcock film. I also used a classic style of editing, which I think also enhanced the feeling of it being a Hitchcock film. We had a lot of fun.
Business.
And again, I used some sound effects in the background. I would consider myself a fairly decent editor, so it was kind of fun editing this. This was my first real attempt. And I've gone through many different final edits of this, because again, I'm just trying to get my skill up. And I think that this film really helped me get my skill up as far as editing. And again, this is just a classic style of editing where it's shot and he held the camera on me from I did my complete take of answering questions, and he would ask me them off camera. And then I did his too, where I would ask him the questions and he would answer them off camera. We had the script we came up with during the shoot, just to we had a general idea before we went into it, but we really just kind of made it all at once. And again, I think that the film, considering the low amount of budget that was put into it, which was absolutely no budget, I think really is a fairly good film. This was probably the hardest thing for me to edit because this was the final thing. I had a lot of problems piecing this together, how I wanted this to look, and you can also see graininess in this film, and that just has to do with the fact that I've saved it many times in lower formats to help increase space, because I have very limited space to work with. And this just is just one of those things that when you save it in too many times in a low format and increase it to a high format, you get a lot of weird graininess on the film. But, considering that, we had no budget, and I was really putting this together through my editing skills at IU
you don't want to know, sir.
Bloomington, I think that this is really
disastrous for you.
just a fairly, good production. And again, this was just something we did for fun, and I think Farhad had a really good time, and he told me that he really enjoyed it, and I think that that's really nice. Again, this is just part of my Hitchcockian feel. There's music that I'm going to be using here in a second that was from North by Northwest. This was just part of the feeling that I wanted to leave. I really enjoy Hitchcock. In fact, if I would recommend any person that wants to get invested in classic film, and I would say that Hitchcock is one of the directors that you really need to know as far as understanding how great classic film is formed. And, for any young filmmaker who is interested in film, I think that two films of Hitchcock that you need to watch are Psycho and The Birds. I would highly recommend those. There are others that are really good too. I think 39 Steps is a really good one for young filmmakers to help you give a sense of a lower budget Hitchcock film and what those look like. And again, there's just so many great things that Hitchcock has to offer. This was part of the music. We actually held the camera up, and you'll notice that the shot's still moving. That's just because we have the camera going. So we just have the shots in place. There's another sound effect. This is probably the most effective part of the movie, and I took this from North by Northwest. This trucking shot of people running, which is very similar to the plane I also wanted to make this a Christian film, so I basically put in some Christian theme at the very end, which is basically, as you'll see, the cabbie realizes that he can no longer handle the situation on his own, which I think is really, really interesting. Because this is kind of like something that I wanted to put in. I had this idea well before we decided to shoot this, and basically, this was just something that I felt like really needed to be added. And it just is, Christian film is my passion, so that's what I did. And this music in the background also is part of this final religious theme, which I also felt was effective for the story. I mean, as you can see, this is probably my favorite shot in the film, the short, because I just really like that shot. It just looks really nice, and an interesting thing is that the gun we used would only cost $1, and I actually took the color out, basically, so you couldn't see this is one of the reasons also why I put it in black and white.
Drop
because
your
I wanted
knife.
to show how God got involved and how it was supernatural. Because as you can see, the assassin is about ready to kill the cabbie, and then the only shot of color is basically where he gets blinded. And that was also, I think, something that Spielberg did in Schindler's List, which I think was really interesting. There's that little pops of color to bring emphasis on certain sections. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you understand a little bit more of how the film was made and how the process actually entailed, a little bit of detail considering the small budget. And I would encourage anyone that has a small budget, don't be discouraged, just make sure that you have a good editing system and just get adapted to that editing system. And I think that you really can make, a fairly fun picture. Thank you so much for your time.